Hello and welcome back to Weston the Historian. Today we will be discussing the philosophies of Plato and Aristotle and what makes them similar and different. To start, let's discuss Plato. His most well-known and important concept is what Plato calls the forms. Plato believed that the material world is nothing but a reflection of a higher metaphysical realm. This higher realm is what he calls the forms. He taught that this world is ever-changing and always moving, while the realm of forms is stable and unchanging. To illustrate this concept, take a table. Every table has differences in color, height, material, design, etc., etc. However, they are all tables because they all reflect the ideal or the form of the table. Plato's most celebrated writing, The Republic, deals with what the form of society is, that is, what the perfect or ideal society would look like, which every other society is a mere downgrade of. Not only this, but in the same book, he deals with the concept of justice, specifically what the form of justice is, as well as what the form of good is. He goes as far as to say that it is necessary for a society to be ruled by philosophers, so that the leaders can look to and ponder on the forms and continue to make society more perfect. It is a book which deals a lot with ideals and even utopianism, which shows up throughout Plato's philosophy. Now, Aristotle showed a more grounded and realistic approach to philosophy in contrast to Plato's idealism. While Plato taught that the forms were something separate and otherworldly, Aristotle taught that everything in this universe was composed of matter and form. Not only this, but Aristotle had a much broader array of things he covered in his works compared to Plato. Aristotle focused heavily on experimentation and studying the real world as opposed to deep contemplation on a realm we cannot see. In refutation of Plato's Republic, Aristotle wrote Politics, a book which displays Aristotle's personal observations on the different forms of government, as well as a critique of the views of Plato. For one example, Plato espouses the idea that the state should be as unitary as possible, to the point where he believes that it is necessary to abolish the family unit and private property so that people do not become selfish. Aristotle argues against this, saying that the family unit and private property are both natural and good. Another one of Aristotle's famous works is Nicomachean Ethics, a book basically describing what Aristotle sees as ethical, virtuous, and good. It is what Aristotle believes men should do if they want to live a good and moral life. Of course, both Aristotle and Plato wrote many, many other works, but these I have already mentioned seem the most relevant and important. We can also see differences in the topics covered by Plato and Aristotle. I've already, discussed this, but to go deeper, while Plato focused more on metaphysics and society and an understanding of the transcendent world of forms, Aristotle wrote much more on life, biology, ethics, political science, physics, etc., etc. So, in conclusion, it is clear that Plato has a far more idealistic and even mystical element to his way of thinking and viewing the world. In contrast, Aristotle views the world through a much more down-to-earth and scientific lens. While they have their very stark differences, both philosophers laid the groundworks for Western thought for centuries to come and have great value for this very reason. I encourage all of you to read Plato and Aristotle so that you can learn more about the people who have changed the course of history and so that you can think for yourself. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. Goodbye.